The other day, when I mentioned that the golden visa from Portugal has been officially closed, or at least they've announced the official closure of it, the actual effect of that has yet to take place, I did mention there was another piece of bad news which happened to come right around the same time. And this concerns the fact that Ireland, a country which has housed all sorts of megalithic corporations and frankly benefited quite a lot from it. If you look at the charts of the Irish economy, it's soared compared to a lot of other places in the world, GDP rising much faster, has decided they don't like rich people either. And so today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the changes that are taking place in Ireland, the reasons they state behind those things, my perspective on these changes, and what other options might be available to you. So let's dive in and discuss that. Before we do, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, hit the all notification bell. Thank you for being here. If it's your first time, I am Michael with Offshore Citizen. We are some of the top global international tax experts, as well as experts in helping you to relocate to other countries, get second citizenships, set up plan Bs, protect your assets, etc. There's a lot of people in the world who are specialists in one particular area, and we specialize in being across multiple areas. So understanding what happens when you deal with multiple countries, when you go from one country to the other, etc. And so this happens to be something that's really useful in certain cases, but can also be really challenging and really detrimental. And unfortunately, most people locally don't really understand it. So we are here to help you out, both with the actual doing of it and figuring out what the best strategy is, etc. So if any of those things are of interest to you and you'd like some personalized advice specific to you, then by all means, please reach out to us. You can book a call with me, calendly.com/Michael-Rosmer. There's a link in the description below. There we can go over your individual situation and guide you on the best solution for you. You can also send a message through offshorecitizen.net, and we will be happy to help you. Okay, so let's dive into the subject of Ireland. So Ireland has had, since I believe it was 2012 or 2013, something called the Immigrant Investor Programme. And the Immigrant Investor Programme is sort of their version of the Golden Visa. It was not typically called the Golden Visa, but it effectively was that. And it allowed people to make some sort of investment. There was 4 different investment options, investment set / donation, to be able to gain access, residency in Ireland. And so this brought in over $1 billion to the country, quite nice for them. Interestingly here, they actually had a donation option where you could donate to a particular charitable cause, €500,000, so certainly not cheap, and didn't come with citizenship. It just came with residency. But you kind of have to ask, like, why would you want to deter that? You know, if somebody's in a situation where they're willing to donate $500,000 to charity, why would you not want to encourage this? Now, in addition to that, you could try investing into a company, potentially including your own. You could make an investment into a fund or a REIT worth €2 million. €1 million is for your investing in your own venture or into some sort of enterprise. So all things that would bring money into the country, help the country in a bunch of regards. They were quite favorable in the sense that, much like the situation with Portugal, you could spend only a day to maintain temporary residency, which is nice. It led to permanent residency, which is also nice, and to citizenship in what is maybe the best citizenship on the planet. You have both EU access and special access to UK. It's a place that has pretty high regard and not insane rules in terms of your ability to leave. You can have dual citizenship, etc. So very, very attractive passport. Not a lot of people were taking advantage of it. I have some clients who have gone through it, but not a lot. And I think that's largely because often people didn't find that Ireland was their favorite place to live. So Portugal was really attractive because Portugal has great weather and is considered to have a good lifestyle, etc. But in the case of Ireland, maybe a little not so much. I was there this summer and I did some videos if you guys want to go back and check out. There's some beautiful things and great sense of humor in the Irish, etc. But yeah, just generally not widely considered to be a place that people love, although some people do love it, so perfectly great in that regard. It was quite nice because they did have a non-domicile regime, so a special regime for taxes that would allow you to potentially not pay tax on your foreign income. So much like they have in UK, I've done some videos on that as well. You can go and check out if you're interested to find out more. And so for some people in certain situations, maybe more attractive than the Portugal NHR program. So put all this together, you had a pretty attractive program in the Immigrant Investor Program, although I would argue that it was not very well advertised. And so, fewer people knew about it, or fewer people took advantage of it. Now, it was, in practice, not quite so straightforward when we'd worked with clients on this. Approvals were not automatic, there's some discretion, et cetera. But that being said, for those who went through it, I think really great program, and frankly, really great program for the country. Now, in the statement, so they just announced they're closing it down. And in the statement, one of the things is that they discovered it was open to abuses. And I find this very hilarious, because is there anything in the world that is not open to abuse? Like, you can say this about anything as an excuse to get rid of it. Of course, what we really know is that there is currently a sort of discriminatory perspective being taken within the EU against people who would have money to do things, and in particular triggered by certain groups of people who they don't like coming in there, which is kind of funny in a kind of woke world where they're supposed to be anti-racism, they're essentially racists. Anyway, not very accommodating, but it's much nicer in their eyes, I guess, to have people who don't bring money into your country. I think it's just like a very bizarre, strange thing for them to cancel a program like this. I mean, I understand it from the perspective of just this is the climate that we're in, but going after wealthy people hardly seems like a good way to advance your country. And so here we are in this situation where Ireland has been beaten back in a bunch of regards. For those who aren't familiar, a lot of the tax strategies that were very common in Ireland basically were closed around 2017. Some of the others a little bit later on, but somewhere around that range. And as a result, Ireland no longer is super attractive for companies to set up from a tax standpoint, and it's no longer attractive for immigrant investors who want to come in. So all across the board, not such great news for people who are interested in Ireland. It does beg the question of where should you go? And as I have been saying in videos over the last little while, the main lesson to learn from this is strike when the iron is hot. When you're in a situation where you have an opportunity to take advantage of something, do it. Do not wait, because you do not know when these things are going to go away. There's certainly, this came more or less without warning, although we have seen some inklings from the EU that they're against programs like this. There's certainly some pressure on citizenship by investment programs in places like the Caribbean right now. So for people who are interested in getting that, I recommend go ahead and get these things while you can, because you do not know how long they will last. You also do not know whether your situation will change and you'll be unable to take advantage of it. So very important to strike while the iron is hot. If you're interested in similar things, what are the options that are available to you? Well, it depends on what you're after. So if you're after an EU citizenship, I mean, really the straightforward example that still exists is Malta. It's fairly expensive, but that being said, we've helped a variety of people go through that program. So if you're interested, reach out to us. Happy to help you. It is the most straightforward way to get an EU citizenship. You could go alternate residency paths to get into countries, whether it's Ireland or UK or Portugal, Spain, Italy, etc. We've talked lots about various of these programs on this channel to get residency in those particular countries. And some of these do lead to citizenship. Now, some of them a little bit harder than others, some of them a little bit easier than others. Certainly you're looking at typically 5 years to be able to qualify and then another year to go through. So it's usually 6 years to get a citizenship, sometimes longer and sometimes with some sort of a language test. So you got to understand that's a fairly significant commitment, but if it's what you've got, it's what you've got. And the good news is some of them, places like to some extent Netherlands, UK, Ireland, Portugal, maybe Spain, maybe Italy, can give you some sort of a favorable tax treatment along the way. So that's good. You can potentially be in a situation where you have a nice case. And if those are places where you want to live anyway, that's great. Now, unfortunately, these paths to citizenship typically require the time on the ground. So gone are the days, with the exception of Malta, of being able to not spend the time physically in the EU and to qualify, unfortunately. So if you're interested then in cases where you could have residence in the EU, access to the EU, and not have to spend the physical time, the probably most attractive option from a Schengen standpoint is Hungary. We can help you with that. If you're interested, please reach out to us. And in this case, you can purchase some real estate and gain access and not have a minimum stay requirement. So that's pretty good. as far as the options go. You can still do things in Greece with their golden visa, which is still around. There are still some options in a couple other places, but more expensive. And those options seem to be closing down a little bit. There is also a program in Malta where you can take advantage of just doing a one-time fee and having a permanent residency, which is fairly attractive for people who are wanting to spend less money but still have that Schengen access. Works okay, although it's not going to lead you to citizenship, so keep that in mind. And then, of course, there are other parts of the world you can go to. I mentioned in a previous video, you have places like Korea, you have places like Mexico. I've talked a lot about how Mexico getting permanent residency, which we can help you kind of fast track that process, is really good because it's actually permanent. A lot of these places, the permanent residency is not permanent. As well as there are some other places down in Latin America that might be attractive to you. And so we'll talk about those in some future videos. I hope that helps. Look forward to hearing from you guys in the future. Hit the subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you very soon.